Hey guys, it's Lexi and welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell, this is a bit of a different vibe from what I usually post because I've been doing a lot of self-exploration and discovering things that give me purpose since I'm no longer in the Disney college program, and that gave me a whole lot of purpose and personality. So I have been into books. For the past year since I left the program, I have been reading a lot. And I've been inspired by TikTok, or booktok you could say. That's what's really kicked me into this new obsession. Oh, it just took one influencer to influence me, so now I'm going to influence you. Though I don't consider myself an influencer, I just want to talk about things that I like. So, in case you couldn't tell, this whole shelf is dedicated to Sarah J. Maas, who has my heart, and I am reading one of her series right now. I'm going to talk about it second. But the first one, if you haven't read Acotar, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, the whole series, if you haven't read this series yet, I will patiently wait for you to go buy it and read it so that we can have a discussion, because I got one of my friends hooked on the series and I kept loaning her the books because she loved it so much and was reading it so fast. So you're welcome, by the way, Monica. This series is amazing. The story building, which is very important for me. It's hard for me to get into a story if the story building is not good. Like if there's a million names thrown at you at one time in different kingdoms. I mean, y'all know, if you read that type of like fiction or fairy magic fiction and they're throwing out all these different creative names, I get lost. And I don't want to, I'm not the type of person that likes to tab my books. I've thought about it a time or two. This series is not going to make you do that. I really don't feel like I need to explain much more about this book series because it's all over TikTok and I don't want to spoil anything. Just know that it's amazing. It's like if Vampire Diaries met Harry Potter and Gossip Girl, which I think is a really awful metaphor, but there's drama and love triangles and magic. So yeah, that's that. Let me move on to the next series. Although, a quick note about this series is that the second book, oh my gosh, I just knocked my bookmarks over. The A Court of Mist and Fury is the best book in the series. You can ask anybody. Chapter 55. And if you know what I'm talking about, then yeah, this book has some love in it. Okay, the next book series is from the same author. It's the Throne of Glass series. This is my favorite series, I think, of all time at the moment. I'm not finished with it yet. I'm almost there. I have all the books. The last two are going to be doozies. So let me try and brief you on something real quick. The series is called Throne of Glass because this book was printed first, even though The Assassin's Blade, I'm 98% sure if what I read was correct, was written first, but it came out second. And The Assassin's Blade is just like 5 short stories about the main character, Selena Sardothian. The last name kind of makes me giggle. And this is just like her backstory and what sets her on this whole journey on Throne of Glass. This series is the best series I think I've ever read. I love it more than Harry Potter, I think, because it's just, the story building of course is amazing because it's Sarah J. Maas. Why wouldn't it be? I don't know how to explain it. There's never a part where I just want to put the book down and I'm done with it and I'm bored. It's not boring. I highly, highly, highly recommend. I recommend this more than Acotar, but the only problem is I feel like this one could be a little bit harder to get into because it's not as heavy on the whole fairy magic realm thing. Even though it's in a fictional world, it's kind of more mortal. Like your lead character is mortal, but she's in a world where there is magic, if that explains it a little bit better. Another thing I like about this series is that there's like 8 books in it, so I feel more accomplished when I finish it. So I'm currently on Queen of Storms. I am on chapter 63. I'm almost done. It's got a big chunk to it. This is the 5th book in the series, which includes the little prequel book, and I cannot put this down. I am almost done with it. I'm probably gonna finish it tonight, but I'm keeping it up here for aesthetic purposes for the video. Okay, and last but not least from the same author is the Crescent City series. This is House of Earth and Blood. And then even though the other one is out, which is I think Sky and Breath, I will not buy it until it's on paperback, which is in September. I don't like hardcover books. They're heavier for one, and I like the flexibility of the paperback books. I started reading this and then I had to pause because I was waiting on one of the Throne of Glass books to come in the mail, so I just needed to pass the time, and then I paused reading this. One thing I've noticed that's popular on like BookTok's opinions is like the first quarter of the book is a little hard to process. There is a lot of magical names and politics and story building that doesn't flow, and make a whole lot of sense at first. So far it's great, and I do plan to finish it once I finish this and get the next book in paperback, but this is gonna take me a second to understand what's all happening, and I'm probably gonna have to restart it because I'm not gonna remember anything. I don't even remember the lead characters' names. Yeah, I should probably restart it. I will add that back to my Sarah J. Maas shelf. So the series that I actually read first, and it took me a second to get into reading because this was back in, like, right before I left for the Disney college program, I was reading this series. It's the Red Queen series. Unfortunately, I don't remember a whole lot that happens in this. I know it was amazing. I read them over a span of like a year, like the 4 books in the series, because I wasn't really into reading, so each time I'd pick it up and start reading, I didn't quite remember what was happening, but I do know it's great, and I need to redo it. When I was a counselor at a camp one summer, I took this book with me, and so it has some love on it, but I need to reread this eventually. All I know is that it's great, and I follow Victoria on, the author, I follow her on TikTok. She has like other books, I think it's called Realm Breaker and something else. I want to read that, and it's on my TBR. I have the whole series up top. Oh my god, I almost knocked this shelf over. Actually, for aesthetic purposes, I'm going to show you. Look at how pretty the spines are. She really knew what she was doing when she had them made. Oh my god. I definitely just got them out of order. I think Glassword is second. The next series that I've read this year is in the Grishaverse. There's a Netflix series, Shadow and Bone. That's what it's based off of, this book series. First of all, these book covers, I love the way that they feel. I hate this awkward thing and this stupid sticker, but besides that, this book series, amazing. I read it so fast. Besides the obvious way that she builds these characters and their backstories in this whole universe so beautifully, I'm more of like a fiction, fairy tale, utopia, dark universe, and this fits the bill. I adore this series. My only thing that was kind of a struggle for me is there's a lot of names and words in here that are based in Russian. Not that it's like written in Russian or anything, but the names, the characters and towns. It took me a second to remember some of them. Can't even think of any off the top of my head because I read this a few months ago. But besides that, absolutely amazing. If you're thinking about reading it or watching it, do. I promise you're not going to regret it. And in the Grishaverse, there's a duology that I got and I did read. Let me grab it. So, side note, if you're like me and you watched Shadow and Bone before or during when you read the series that follows it, they introduced these characters like Cal Brecker and all them. And I was like, where are these people from? I've literally never heard of them when I was reading the actual series. This duology, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, is, I don't want to say the word breathtaking because that seems a little excessive to describe it, but it's amazing. I felt very passionate about these characters and what they were working towards and their little heists that they were trying to pull off and the relationships that they were building. Mind you, the ending of Crooked Kingdom, I think, which is the second one in the duology, I had to like put it down and take a deep breath because I was like, what the? Read it. I promise you won't regret it. And if you do regret it, then read it again because you clearly weren't reading it with the eyes that I have, because amazing. Okay, on to the next series. This is by Jennifer Armentrout, and she wrote another series that I'm gonna start reading when I finish all the other ones that I have. Storm and Fury, Rage and Ruin, Grace and Glory. So I have a love-hate relationship with this series or trilogy because the storyline, the whole premise of what it's about, I loved. I was really into. I really wanted to know how it ends, and I love the whole angel demon vibe, and there's gargoyles too, which caught me by surprise because I've never read anything with gargoyles in it. Ooh, but they were in it and I really dug it. The only problem, or not, it wasn't that small, it was kind of big for me, was the way it was written. The author's perspective was the main character. Her name is Trinity and she's like 18 years old. I imagine it that the author was trying her best to emanate a teenage vibe and kind of went overkill in the way she was talking and like her inner monologue or inner dialogue. There were some metaphors in here that anytime I would read it, I would have to put it down and kind of go, what? One of the things that the character says, which is literally engraved in my brain because I had secondhand embarrassment from reading it and I had to go tell my boyfriend, like, holy crapsicles. Yeah, and she's supposed to be 18. I don't know anyone 18 that said that, and I was only 18 like what, 5 years ago? Like 3 years ago? That was a little hard to get through, and she had multiple statements like that. So getting over that awkward part Great series. The whole premise of what it was about was the only thing getting me through it because it was kind of hard to get through some of that dialogue. I don't know. I don't handle secondhand embarrassment too well. But besides that, good stuff. Okay, regarding the same author, my Groot. On my TBR is the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer Armentrout, which I've heard good things about, and I've also heard that the further you get into the series, the harder it is to stay connected and devoted. We will see. Whenever I actually read this, I'm sure I'll update my thoughts and opinions. It's really heavy, honestly, and there's like a lot written on these pages. You're not gonna be able to tell, but I have high hopes for this series. Okay, and last but certainly not least, if you have read this, then yeah, Hooked. This is like a Never After series by this author, and each book is based off a different Disney villain, and it's a modernized version of it. It's definitely not PG-13. I think the rating for this, if it was turned into a TV show, would be on HBO and it'd be rated like MA. But besides that, it's pretty interesting. It goes really fast. The author has like a warning at the front that says, this is literally a story about a villain being a villain. It's not a villain turned hero. Like, she kind of gives you a warning that you're not going to be reading some character redemption story. I loved it, and I got this with my friend, so we were like sending each other Snapchats as we were reading this to be like, oh my gosh, did you just read this chapter? Or, oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know what to say to someone to recommend this, because it's definitely not something I'd recommend to my mom, but I think I'd recommend it to certain friends. They just have to be into certain things for me to know that they will like it, if that makes sense. So alas, oh, I just broke my, look at that, I just broke my bookmark, and they have different little monsters. Anyways, so that is my book haul for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. I like that on my downtime I don't feel the need to go on my phone, go on social media, because I know that I have a book I can read, and I feel like it's kind of a flex to say that you read books in your spare time. On Goodreads, I be racking up my books because I'm trying to like beat a high score. I can't say when you'll see me next or what it'll be, but just know that it'll be me.